Hello, I'm Tim Cartmel. Thank you for buying our tape. This is tape 2 in the series of the Qina tapes. Before we get to the techniques, we're going to have a review of the same principles that we had on tape 1. Thank you. Alright, first let's talk about the definition and the different types of Qina. Qin means to lock. So it's referring to locking the opponent's joints up for various holds and leverages. Na means to seize. Na refers to grabbing someone on pressure points or blood vessels or choking. It also refers to striking vital areas of the body. So the art principally involves strikes to vital areas, locking up the bones, and then subsequent follow-ups like throwing. You use Qina in conjunction with the striking and throwing arts. There are 3 ways to practice Qina. The first is called passive. Passive Qina is when the opponent grabs me. For example, he grabs my wrist, he grabs my lapel, he's got me in a hold. It's passive because he's not moving. He's already still. He has at least one hand stuck to my body. Alright? The next level is active Qina. Active Qina is when we start at a distance and my opponent attacks me and I try to go straight into my technique. It's a little bit more difficult. Most of the techniques on this tape are from active Qina, a little bit higher level. Any technique that I do from a blow or a kick can also be done from a grab, and you can do that on your own. The third type of practice is with weapons, and that's beyond the scope of this tape. We're not going to do that. Some advantages of Qina are, Qina is used at close range. Most fights, unless you knock the person out immediately, get into the grappling range. So it's the last chance you're going to have to take your opponent before you end up falling on the ground and wrestling. So it's very useful in the grappling range. Qina techniques can be used to control an opponent without actually hurting him. You can lock his bones up and hold him down without doing much damage. On the other hand, if you want to apply more pain or damage to the opponent, they can be quite devastating. You can destroy joints, you can hold them immobile while you strike them, so it can go either way. You learn also to control your body, your own body, as well as the opponent's body. So the skills, the attributes that you develop during Qina practice carry over into the striking and kicking and throwing arts as well. You learn how to control the opponent's body center and his limbs, so they apply to the other arts. When you practice Qina, another advantage is you don't have to pull the technique per se. You don't have to put pads on and hit or pull your punches. You do the techniques just like you're going to do them in the street. The only difference being you stop when the opponent feels pain or he's locked. You just don't apply too much force. But you can practice, you'll have a very good feedback when you do the technique because the opponent will be locked or not. He'll go down or not. You'll know if it works or not. So it's a very realistic mirror of your level of skill. Qina also is not based on using brute force. You don't have to be big and strong to do the techniques. A big person's joints will lock just as easily as a small person's joints if you do the techniques correctly. So smaller people can overcome larger people. You can lock and throw someone that you probably have a hard time striking or kicking if they're a lot bigger and stronger than you. So those are several of the advantages. Thank you. Now let's talk about the basic principles of the techniques and the anatomy. The first and probably most important rule is called non-opposition of force. I never want to use force against force. I always assume my opponent is stronger than me. So all these techniques are based on getting a superior angle and a superior leverage to apply them. When you're practicing, if you're trying a technique and it's not working and you're using force, it's not working. You want to figure out why it's not working or change. You don't want to add energy to something that's not working anyway. So remember that when you practice, you don't want to use any force on the opponent. They should be very, very easy to do. Okay. Let's talk about the joints. When you're doing a joint lock, usually you're going to twist or bend various joints at about a 45-degree angle. That usually it's going to be along 2 axes at once. For example, if I turn Glenn's wrist this way on this axis, it's the way his wrist and forearm move. If I bend his wrist up and down this way, it's the way it naturally goes. But if I pull it at 45 degrees, it immediately locks into his center. Okay? So most of the techniques, I'm going to make reference often to moving the joint around 2 axes at once. And that's what I'm talking about. Usually it boils down to going at a 45-degree angle, not straight or around this axis. Okay. Twisting a joint has the added benefit that the joints are very resilient along the axis they're supposed to move on. They have very, very little resistance when they're turned off those axes. So besides the fact that it locks his bones up quicker, it hurts more. You can do more damage. When you're doing locking techniques, the idea though is not to cause pain. A pain hold might hurt, but if the opponent's bones aren't locked, he can still follow up or hit you back or get away. For example, if I grab Glenn's wrist here and I twist it really hard, it might hurt, but he can still hit me. His hands are free, he can move his feet. A good technique, pain is secondary. If it hurts him, all the better. But the goal of the technique is to lock him into his center, his hips. Once you lock into someone's hips, it takes his base out. Now Glenn can't hit me. Now this might not necessarily hurt, but he's locked. Now I can follow up or pin him or hit him. That's the idea. So when you're practicing with your partner, you're training, the question to ask is not, does it hurt? The question to ask is, are you locked? Can you move? Can you escape? If he can't, it's a good technique. If it just hurts and he can still move around, it's a bad technique. You're not controlling his center. The way you control the center from a joint is called sequential locking. Or chain locking. You lock from one joint to the next joint to the next joint, all the way down through into his hips. So, for example, if I twist Glenn's wrist far enough, it starts to turn his forearm bones, that locks into his humerus, that locks into his shoulder, down his spine, and all the way to his hips. That's how it's going to work. So, twisting the wrist outward, inward, pressing on his elbows, and the lower half is the same. You have to lock into the center. We'll talk about that a lot more when we do the techniques. Sometimes you get what we call a partial lock. You'll lock up the top half of his body, but not the bottom half. Then you bring your legs into play. For example, if I have Glenn's arm in this kind of position, I have a pretty good lock on his upper body, but he can still move his feet. He can get out of it. Okay? So what I need to do is, as I'm locking the top, I use my leg to lock the bottom and move his base. Now his hips are locked from above and below, and he can't move at all. So oftentimes we'll talk about using your legs to destroy his base. Okay? Locking from above and below. Another important principle of Qinghai are levers. Qinghai techniques primarily use first and second class levers. A first class lever is like a seesaw. So, for example, if I'm going to do an arm bar, an arm break on Glenn, I pull here, here's the fulcrum of my arm here. The farther down the forearm I get, the longer here, the more leverage I get. So obviously if I grab Glenn by the forearm and push here, I get no effect at all. There's no lever. But if I grab him down the lever, a little bit of force has a big effect on his body. So we're going to talk about those levers and getting the longest forearm that we can get when we apply our force. Second class levers are like a wheelbarrow. So for an example here, if Glenn's here, say I want to pull him over backwards. If his heels are the fulcrum, his entire body is a lever. The farther up that I pull backwards, the easier it will be for me to pull him down. If I pull Glenn from his knees, it's going to be very hard. The higher up I get, the easier it'll be. If I pull Glenn from his forehead, it's easy to throw him down. Okay? So we'll talk about that during the techniques. I just want you to be familiar with the terminology. We're going to talk about getting on the end of his levers when we do techniques. Alright. Remember, when you're practicing, not to use brute force, always try to lock his skeletal structure. Okay? And control him from wherever your point of application is, all the way into his hips. Joints are usually bent at 45-degree angles around two axes, and we're going to use correct leverage, meaning the right angle and get far down the lever arm. Now let's talk about the posture, your own posture. Since we're not using brute force and tension, our power is going to come from correct alignment and using our bodies in the correct anatomical alignment with relaxation. So, first of all, you want to maintain relaxation at all times. You want to stay completely relaxed. You don't want to tense up any muscles anywhere in your body. When you tense up, you're going to be slower and you're going to hold your power back. And also, if you're tense, you're going to give the opponent a handle to your own center. For example, if my arm's tense and Glenn grabs my wrist, I'm like a statue now, and he pulls me, I immediately lose my entire balance. If I stay relaxed and Glenn pulls, then I have a lot of play here and I can change. So when you stand up, make sure the most important alignment is the head. The head's like the engine of a train. Everything else is going to follow it, like the cars. Right in between your ears here is a point called Bai Hui, like it's the crown of your head. You want that to float up, and your chin might slightly rotate inward. Always have the feeling your head's floating up off of your torso. Your spine always lengthens. Keep your chest relaxed but up. Don't collapse your chest. Keep your chest up and relaxed. Your scapula relaxed in the back. And your shoulders should be very, very relaxed here. Always keep your shoulders down. When you raise your arm, don't let your shoulder come up with it. It'll cut off your arm from your torso, which is your power source. On the other hand, when you do Qinghai on your opponent, you often want to make him raise his shoulder to cut off his arm from his power source. So you keep your shoulders down and relaxed. Your elbows are always hanging, like there's something heavy on your elbows. Your hands, when you're using your hands, you don't want to put a lot of tension in your hands either. If you tense your hands, they'll tighten up your forearms, which will translate tension into your body. Also, if your hands are stiff, you'll have no feeling. All these techniques are completely dependent upon having feeling. If you have no feeling, you won't be able to change fast enough to apply the technique. So you want to be relaxed, so you bring the power from your body out through your hands and keep your hands relaxed. Keep your hips level. You want to keep your feet more or less under your hips. In Qina, sometimes you might spread your base wide when you're sweeping or throwing, but in general, you're going to keep your feet fairly close together underneath your base. There are not very many low, stable stances of this nature because it's based on mobility. If you're standing like this and you're very stable, you can't follow the guy and move. Qina is based on agility, being able to move to the correct angle. So we're going to stay up fairly high with a slight bend in our knees and hips and keep our feet under our base. So in summary, the most important thing is to keep your head floating up from the crown, away from your torso, keep your spine lengthened, your body relaxed, keep your shoulders down, your elbows heavy, your hands are soft so they're sensitive, and your feet more or less under your hips. You don't want to have too wide of stances. Now let's talk about how you set up the technique. The best technique in the world is useless unless you can set it up. You have the opportunity to apply it. So with Qina techniques, what you want to do is not use force against force. If you use brute force against force, your opponent will tense up and it will be very hard to apply techniques. So, for example, if Glenn punches me and I stay here and I block right into him, I don't get hit, which is good, but I put him right back into his base, into his feet. He tenses up and now I'm fighting. It's going to be almost impossible for me to apply some kind of a leverage from here. Alright? So say Glenn throws like a roundhouse punch. If I stay here and block and try to grab him, he can hit me again and he's very, very stable. What Qina likes to do is get out of the way of his force. It's called moving off the attack line. When Glenn comes in to hit me, his torso is going to be moving towards me. I'm not so much concerned about his hands as much as I am about the flow of his force, which is his whole body coming forward. So if Glenn steps in to hit me, I move off the attack line and let his force go past me. That way I can connect with him without disturbing his force. Okay? If he throws his punch, I might step out and block up. It doesn't matter really how I block, as long as I get out of the way. Now, I can go forward also. I can slip the punch and move forward, but I'm not stopping his force. As soon as I stop his momentum, he goes right back into his feet and tenses up. When you're blocking his arm, you want to connect with his arm. You want to redirect the force and then catch hold. You have to obviously be grabbing someone to do the leverage technique. When Glenn hits me, I don't want to move out of the way and knock his arm away like that either. Now I have to jump in and try to grab him again. I wasted time. Now if you want to strike him and keep hitting him, it's fine. But if you want to get a hold and do a leverage on him, you have to be able to get a hold. So don't block hard and knock his hand away from you and then reach out for it again. You've wasted time. It also will put him back into his feet. Okay. Redirecting the momentum is what you want to do. So, for example, Glenn steps in to hit me. I move out of the way, and I roll with his arm. I touch and I move with him until he runs out of momentum. Then it's very easy to connect. He's not moving anymore. There's no relative motion here. I just catch hold. Like we said in the last section, don't use a lot of power. Even if I get a good angle, I redirect his momentum, and I grab real tight. Again, now he can resist against me, and we're struggling. So catch hold lightly and hold. You want to lead him from there. You don't want to grab him and try to apply force from the point of contact. So, when it hits me again, I move out of the way, I redirect his momentum, and I catch hold. Now, you can do that. If he throws it again, I could be moving forward and doing that, but that's going to be the general rule. Move your feet and get out of the way, off the attack line, get out of the way of the brunt of his force. When you block, redirect and connect. Don't knock his blow away from you. If he's grabbing you, if you're already close and he's grabbing you, the same principle applies more or less. I want to get out of the way of his center and stay away from whatever hand's free. This is his dead hand. This can't do anything to me. Now it's just holding me. This is the hand he's going to hit me with, or he might kick me. So again, I view this as this punch coming. I want to move away from that side and do whatever technique we're going to do. So if someone gets a hold of you, or even with both hands, if you grab with both hands, I can still move to the side and put him in an inferior position and then do my technique. It's important that if someone grabs you, don't immediately grab his hand and try to apply a leverage. It's not going to work from here if his arm's stiff and he's strong. He'll just push me backwards and start hitting me. I'll lose my balance. So the first thing to do, even if you're grabbed, is to get the correct setup. So we're going to be moving off his attack line, maybe pulling his body out, striking him, and then doing the leverage. So that the same principle applies from dead hand Qina when he's touching you, or live hand Qina when he's striking you from a distance. We'll go over this in much greater detail during the techniques. Finally, a word of caution. These techniques are potentially very devastating because you're moving their joints against their natural range of motion. When you're practicing with your partner, always go very slowly. You work out fairly cooperatively at first. When your partner either taps or he verbally lets you know that there's pain, stop immediately. Don't go any farther. Never apply a technique with a snap or a jerk. Once a joint's at the limit of its range of motion, if you snap or jerk it, you can do a lot of damage. Take a long time to heal. It's not necessary for the technique. So be very, very careful. And as soon as your partner signals pain, stop. Most of these techniques are going to go into a takedown or a throw. Always work out on a padded surface like a mat. Don't work out on any kind of hard floor. If you don't know how to do break falls and roll, and I strongly suggest that you learn before you do the takedowns, because some of these falls are very hard. You're often falling with one or both of your limbs tied up, so it's very hard to slap out. So if you don't know how to fall, you can apply the leverage to the point of taking the opponent down, or your partner down, and then stop. Be sure that he knows how to fall. You should warm up your joints before you practice. Do some warm-ups. Make sure your joints are flexible, because most of the techniques are involving the joint. Okay. Be especially careful on neck techniques. Anytime that you're grabbing and twisting your partner's head, be especially careful. Very, very dangerous. And it's very, very hard for your opponent to control his momentum once he's off balance and his head's being twisted. And finally, when you're working out, it's very important that your partner gives you feedback. You don't want to have to try to figure things out. If you do a technique and it's not working, very often your partner will tell you why. They'll say, well, you need a better angle, or I felt like you pushed into me, or whatever the case may be. So ask your partner for feedback as you're training. Thank you. Good luck. This technique is called Fantian Seal, and it's a wrist leverage. You're going to do it on his wrist, bending his wrist at a 45-degree angle. You need to have his elbow bent so his hand's kind of in a S-shaped curve here. You're going to grab around his little finger side of his palm with your 4 fingers, and your thumb's going to go around the index finger side of his palm. You're going to twist his hand so his little finger cuts straight down as if you're cutting down through his center with it. Make sure this is bent, and you're going to put the leverage on from there. Now again, it's not so much that it hurts the opponent's wrist as that it locks into his hips. If I twist it at that angle and I don't lock his elbow and shoulder, he's going to be very mobile. So I try to lock this directly into his hips by taking the slack out here and turning his little finger over towards him that way. Okay. Now the way to set this up is, off a punch, Glenn hits me, say I block and I hit him, or if Glenn hits me, I might block down and hit, but it's when you're hitting them, they grab a hold of they have a hand, they grab your arm. Okay? This is also fairly common when you're fighting, he grabs your arm. Immediately, come up from underneath with your hand, your left hand, and just press his palm against your forearm. Move your body in and bring your elbow over the top of his arm. There. Drops him down, okay? So you see, you got the same leverage we just talked about here. From here, you can hold him and you can kick him or you can hit him. Or if you want to take him down, you can step back, push him on his face, drop on, put his wrist outside your neck, hold his elbow, your palm on the ground, lean up over his head 45 degrees for an arm lock, shoulder lock. So Glenn hits me, I block, hit back, he stops and catches. I reach up and press his hand to my arm, immediately move in, bringing my elbow over his forearm and drop my weight. Okay? I'm using my body. Don't try to push down with your elbow. Use your body weight here. Take your hand out, step back and push. It goes on his face. And you can pin from here. Hold his shoulder. You can follow with a strike if you need to. Put some weight on his body with your leg. This technique is called uniting yin and gathering yang. And as a come along hold, you're going to have the opponent's left wrist with your left hand on the outside, reach up between his upper arm and his torso with your right hand, and grab the back of his hand below the wrist down here on the knuckles. Not too high up. Again, you want to be farther down the lever on his hand here. Pull it in tight so you hold on here. Bring his elbow in tight, close to your chest, and your right arm's holding it in tight here. You can't leave any space or he'll get his elbow away. Tuck it in tight here. Pull his hand down and towards his wrist and twist a bit that way. It causes pain on his wrist. You can also slide this hand around and reinforce it. Pull him with both hands, squeeze in here. Now, if you do that and lift, it'll bring the opponent on his toes and you can walk him. So it's often used as a come-along hold. Again, left hand grabs his left wrist, insert through here, bring his hand up to your hand, hook it down around the knuckles, pull it in tight. Bring his hand around and squeeze in tight, and you can walk the opponent this way. Alright, one way of getting into it would be, if you're behind the opponent and you come up behind them, you just take a hold of their wrist from here. If you want to set him up, you might punch him in the kidney. That's a good shot. You could lift up and hit him underneath in the ribs to stun him. Or if you're quick enough, you can just grab, swing your hand through and bring it right up to here. Especially if they're unsuspecting. If he's bothering someone else or you want to take him out of somewhere, this is a good technique. So left to left, shoot this hand through, bring it right up to here, right into your hand. Put the pressure on immediately. Then switch this hand around here so both hands are on and squeeze in, and you can walk the opponent. Okay, one more time from behind. So you come up from the rear, grab the wrist, shoot this through, bring it right up to your hand. It comes right into there this way. Squeeze it in tight, bring this around, pull up and in, and then you can walk the opponent on his toes. Okay. This technique is called the golden silk wraps the wrist. It's a wrist leverage. You have to rotate the opponent's hand over and then at 45 degrees, so it looks like their little finger's going to cut down through their center this way. So their fingers are up this way vertically, and you're going to cut down with their little finger right towards their center. The opponent's elbow also has to be bent a little bit. If it's straight, you can get a different leverage, but it's not going to work that way. So make sure his elbow's bent, get in close, twist, and then use your body weight like you're bowing. So your chest pushes his hand right towards his center, and that brings him down to here. Okay, now from here he's locked. You can use your feet to kick him, you can punch him, or you can throw him on his face in an arm lock. Alright? Okay, off of a grab, if the opponent uses his left hand to grab my right wrist here, immediately I'm going to strike him. This is the dead hand. The live hand here is the one I have to worry about. He's going to strike me with this hand. So I want to move away from that hand and hit him over here, so I'm safe. At the same time, I leave my arm very relaxed. I don't tense up so he can pull me off balance this way. I leave it relaxed. I let my arm be heavy and I swing it out and down so it moves his arm from his shoulder. When someone grabs you and he's got his arm tight, don't try to push in from here. You can't do anything. Pull away from him and move it out here. Then it's easy to move. So he's got a hold. I relax my arm and I move and hit him. Now right from here, I break this hand up this way underneath so that the tiger's mouth portion between the thumb and index finger comes right up under his wrist. As I do that, I drop my hand on the back of his hand. I get my forefingers around the little finger side of his palm and my thumb around the index finger side of his palm. Okay? So he grabs me, I swing and hit, I pull up in here, I rotate his arm, get it in that position. See, I drop it, I drop my elbows out this way. So his elbow bends, his little finger's aimed at his center, and I move my body in and bring him down. Now from here I can knee him in the head, or I can let go and hit him, or I can step back, take him on his face, and I can hold him here and hit him. I can bring his hand up here and pin. So he grabs me, my arm's relaxed, I swing it out and hit, pull this away from him. Don't let it get back into it where he has power. Pull his arm away from his power source, grab up underneath, around the back of his hand, drop your elbows and twist and move your body in to here. Okay, I can follow up with my feet, or I can go back to the pin. This technique is called Shanzi presses the basket. It's a wrist leverage, the same kind of leverage as the last one. You rotate his wrist up and over at 45 degrees with his little finger cutting down, his elbow bent, so it's like this S shape. But instead of if somebody grabs you this way, this is if he grabs you thumb down, this way. So I want to move away and pull my hands away from him, put my left hand on the back of his hand, forefingers around his little finger side of palm, thumb around his index finger side of palm, here. And I move in towards him as I lift my elbow up so it bends his wrist in that position and his elbow's bent. His little finger now is on top. His fingers are vertical. Here, and I drop my elbow and bend forward. Alright? So he's got me with a thumb down grip. I move away, lift my elbow, bring it towards him, and squat and twist. I'm twisting this way with this hand and dropping my elbow over. Now from here I can take his hand off, hold him and follow up with a blow or pin him on his face. Now, this is often useful if I'm punching Glenn and he blocks down and catches my hand. Say he catches it here. he's blocking in this direction, I keep the momentum going and I come right in for the lock. And then I go to the tip. Alright? So, if you run into this situation, if you hit somebody and they block down, pull it back in, keep the momentum going this way, comes right up to here, drop on. Alright? This technique is called tying the phoenix wings. So my opponent's the phoenix and I'm going to tie up one of his arms. It's also a wrist leverage, same as previous two. You want to rotate his hand up, little finger on top, then at 45 degrees with his elbow bent. This time though, you're going to do it when the opponent has his arm on your shoulder. He's grabbing me up here or he's shoving me up high here. I'm going to put this hand on the back of his hand and press it to my chest, grabbing around the back of his hand with my fingers, my thumb. I'm going to lift this arm up in a big circle so it turns my shoulder. And see, that brings his little finger up in that position, that being on top. So I bring it up, drop down, and then I turn my waist to the right as if I'm elbowing back with my right arm. And that puts the leverage on. Okay? Now, this is not such a secure hold because your hand's free here. So once you get him into this position, you need to follow up. You can use his hand to hit the back of his neck. You can go for an arm bar. You can grab his hair and then maybe knee him. Whatever is appropriate. So he's pushing me here, right? When he pushes you also, don't resist forward. You'll never be able to do it now. You'll have too much force here. So as he pushes me, I receive his force and I move away from him, pulling his arm away from his power source. Make a big circle, come down and twist back, and then take him down. Okay? And you can follow up if you have to. One more time. He pushes my shoulder. I move back with it. Move, making a big circle, backing down. If you want to, you can also come into the arm here. Pull him down on his face here and pin from here and follow up with this hand. Just when he's pushing, back and trap, big circle over, make sure his little finger rotates up, okay, or it won't work. Drop down and twist. From here I scooped under, so I have my hand on the back of his arm behind his elbow, pull down to here. You can hold him from here and follow up with your left hand, okay? This technique is called the white robe cuts the grass. It's a variation of an arm bar, and it's very easy to apply because of the angle. What you do is you have your opponent's right leg forward, and you have a hold of his opposite arm, his left arm. So in this situation, if Glenn has his right leg forward, I use my left hand to grab his left wrist on the outside. I'm going to push his, balance him over. If I kept pushing at this angle, Glenn would just fall backwards. Okay, it's a very, very weak angle. But what we're going to do is we want to pin him on his face. So from here, as I push it in, from here, I pivot around my right foot and I swing my left foot backwards and I pull it down and let it fall on his face. Alright? Now, if you do this quickly, the opponent might flip over. If I have this angle here, if I get him very off balance and I'm close, and I bend forward as I do this, we'll flip him over. Alright, but we're going to do it as a pin. So, right foot forward, I have his left hand from the outside, left to left. Move your body and don't try to push from here and then pull back. You won't have any power. Get close to him so that your elbows down, relaxed. Use your legs and your body to unbalance him. Don't push too far, it'll fall. Push to here till you feel him going off balance, and immediately keep his arm in front of you. Swing your left foot back and just turn your body. Pin here. You can drop your knee and go to a shoulder pin, or you can hold here and follow up. Off a punch, Glenn hits me, I move off the attack line and catch, and I strike at his face. Now I can chop or backhand or whatever. He blocks. This is the setup that you want. I immediately roll his hand over and pull his arm out, keeps his arm stretched, and I push straight in here. I move my body in close. Keep him close here. Keep his hand right in front of your body. Step back and bring him down. Here. So Glenn hits, I move off the attack line, catch, strike, I move in to here, and turn. This technique is called the golden chicken nods its head. It's an outside wrist throw. You're going to rotate his wrist at 45 degrees this way and lock into his center. Make sure you're pulling his arm away from him. In this technique, we're going to set it up a little bit differently than usual. A lot of people block down and then lift back up, which is fine if you have a lot of distance. We're going to do it if you're on the inside of his arm. How do you get to that throw? So what it's going to entail is I'm going to block on the inside of Glenn's arm. I'm going to drop my elbow and just grab, twist his hand up here. So the leverage is already set up here. His elbow's rotated inward, his forearm's rotated outward. From here, I just reach up and grab the back of his hand this way. 4 fingers around his little finger side of the palm, and my thumb goes right through the tiger's mouth there by his index finger. From here, and then I just step back. When I get to here, I grab here, I step back. I can reinforce it with this hand, or just use one. Take him down. Okay, so I'm on the inside of his arm. Here, I wrap up to here, grab. You can reinforce if you want to. I step back with this leg, keep pulling it away from him. Take him down. Okay. Off a punch, for example, Glenn hits me, I move back, block side, block up, and catch. I might strike at him. Bring this up and step up. Grab here. Take him down. Fall him down with your body weight. Don't try to push with your arms. Okay, Glenn hits me. I move over here. So I block and strike. Wrap. Grab the back of the hand. Throw. This technique is called the galloping horse looks back. We're going to have a hold the opponent's wrist and turn around and look over our shoulder. It's an outside wrist leverage. This way again, you're going to have your 4 fingers wrapped around each side of the opponent's palm, your thumbs on the back of his hand. You're going to twist his hand at 45 degrees along 2 axes and lock into his center. This time though, instead of stepping back and turning the throw, we're going to step forward and push him straight down this way. This is also a very hard fall. From here you can control his hand and follow up with whatever's appropriate. Okay, so left hand around his thumb, bring it up. Right hand grabs him straight, so it's reinforced. You're going to step forward this way, and like you're going to look over your left shoulder, pull out, and he goes down. Now to set that up, if Glenn punches me and I block and get a hold, and I step in to throw without doing anything, he'll tighten his arm up, and I'll never be able to do it. All right. So what I need to do is, as Glenn hits me, I move back, pull his arm away from him, and then hit him. Okay? This is to take his mind off this. If it hits him, all the better. But it doesn't have to. It'll probably block it's an obvious blow. Here, he takes his mind off this. I just drop my arm and go straight. Take him down. Okay. So he strikes me. I move back and catch, hit, and get his hand ready. He'll forget about this hand because he'll be thinking about not getting hit, be blocking. From here, slide down, just move forward, and you can turn a bit outside. You can step forward with either foot. This technique is called the 1,000 caddy finger. So to the opponent, it's going to feel as if your own finger's very, very heavy. You do this one from kind of a handshake position. It's a good place to start practicing it. What you want to do is wrap your thumb around the base of his thumb, okay? And then twist your hand down and a little bit towards him this way. So it's painful on the back of the thumb. It's as if you're grabbing someone and breaking it backwards. That's what it's going to feel like. So as he grabs me, I wrap my thumb around the base of his thumb. Don't grab too high. Make sure it's around the base of his thumb here. And twist your hand this way. Now I immediately step in close to him and hook his arm up under his own throat. Get closer so that he has no room to maneuver. I can grab his hair or the back of his shoulder is good. From here I'm hanging off my hand and I just throw him forward on his face. Now be careful when you practice because he's going to fall on his elbows. It's very painful. He lands here. I drop my knee on his back and keep weight on him. Let go with your right hand and replace it with your left hand. Here. If you hold him this way, he'll be able to roll over. He'll be able to roll up out of it this way. Alright? So put this down here, replace it with this hand, scoop his wrist up and hold it by your waist. Now from here, if you lean forward, you have a very tight hold in the shoulder, and you can use your left hand to hit him with. So from a handshake position, your thumb wraps around the base of his thumb and twist down. Step in very close, wrap up here and grab. Get very close to him. Move with him, take him down, drop your knee, let go with your right, grab with your left, scoop his wrist out this way. Bring it up by your hip. Bring your weight up over him and press down here. You want to be pressing his shoulder into the ground, lifting his hand up towards your hip, and keep a lot of weight on your knee here. Lift up and over. This technique is called the immortal child points the way. It's outside wrist leverage. Again, you're going to twist his hand so his little fingers up, fingers are vertical. Bend his wrist, go 45 degrees over as if you're cutting down to the center. There. His elbow has to be bent. This one will do from a lapel grab. Now, you could probably conceivably just grab and do it, but if his arm's stiff and you're standing right in front of him, it's a little dangerous, and he still has that hand to hit you. So I recommend that you move away from him, over here to a safe angle, away from that hand, and strike. Okay? Then drop the back of your hand on, get a grip, grab around his both sides of his palm with your fingers. You can hold his wrist with your right hand. Drop your elbows and hold his hand tight to your chest. Here, tight. Now just turn your waist and bend forward to your left like you're bowing. And bring him down. From here again, you can hang on and follow up with your legs. You can take his arm off here and then pin him on his face. Whatever you'd like. So he grabs me. I can grab up underneath here, hit him, boom. Backhand grab, drop my elbows, twist, pull it tight to my chest, turn and bow at this angle, and then follow up. Okay, so one more time. This technique is called the immortal child points the way. It's outside wrist leverage. Again, you're going to twist his hand so his little fingers up, fingers are vertical. Bend his wrist, go 45 degrees over as if you're cutting down to the center. There. His elbow has to be bent. This one will do from a lapel grab. Now, you could probably conceivably just grab and do it, but if his arm's stiff and you're standing right in front of him, it's a little dangerous, and he still has that hand to hit you. So I recommend that you move away from him, over here to a safe angle, away from that hand, and strike. Okay? Then drop the back of your hand on, get a grip, grab around his both sides of his palm with your fingers. You can hold his wrist with your right hand. Drop your elbows and hold his hand tight to your chest. Here, tight. Now just turn your waist and bend forward to your left like you're bowing. And bring him down. From here again, you can hang on and follow up with your legs. You can take his arm off here and then pin him on his face. Whatever you'd like. So he grabs me. I can grab up underneath here, hit him, boom. Backhand grab, drop my elbows, twist, pull it tight to my chest, turn and bow at this angle, and then follow up. Okay, so one more time. This technique is called sitting and separating the gold. This now is a China technique done to the opponent's hip. His hips are, of course, right in his center, so a little bit of motion on his hips completely destroys his balance. When you push on someone's hip, or you want to turn his hip out, you need to go 45 degrees back and down to the side. Glenn's very solid here, and I push straight down. It's very, very solid. If I push 45 degrees out and down this way, it's very, very weak. Okay? So the same applies to the knees. If I push his knee straight down this way, it's solid. Push it out that way, it's very weak. Alright. In this technique, what we're going to do though, we're going to be on the outside with our left leg behind his right leg, this way. We're going to squat down an elbow right into the front point of his hip here. It's very painful, and it's going to knock him at that angle, 45 degrees out. So I'm holding here, I'm going to hit him this way. Boom, inside the hip. Take him down. Alright? So one more time, my left leg is behind his right leg. Here, I squat elbow down and out that way. And hold his foot and he goes down. Off a punch, goes to say a roundhouse punch, I'm going to move back, cover, and slap him in the groin to set him up. Leave my hand there, drop right into this position, elbow. Take him down. You want to be kind of in a low horse stance, solid. Be careful when he hits the ground, he'll still be able to use his feet. He might try to kick you. If he kicks, make sure your hands can cover, and then you can move up and follow up. Okay. So right roundhouse punch, step back out of the way, block and slap at his groin, come right down here, elbow his hip, take him down, alright? One more time. Okay, be careful of his feet. This thing is called turning the body and moving the limb. The limb in this case is the opponent's leg. So this is a China technique that locks his knee and hip and takes him down. It's off of a kick. So here, let me have your foot. You have a hold of someone's foot. You might have it underneath or over the top. What you're going to do is hold it close to your hip here so it's secure. Put your elbow above his knee on his thigh. Extend your front leg in. Don't step in close here. He'll be able to hit you with his hands. You're losing your advantage. I stay away from him, but from here I really don't have much of a base to pivot from. So I slide this foot out here. I'm still far away from him, and I just turn my waist. And he goes down right here in front of me. Now I can hit him in the groin and follow up. What we're going to do here is an extra pin is a half a Boston Crab. I'm going to grab behind his knee, keep this right by my hip, just turn my waist and roll over, step over him, and then squat and tilt him up, right? Now I can reach him with this hand here, and I can also hit him in the groin from here. So one more time, just have your leg. So I've either caught his leg under or over. My forearm's going to go above his knee. I extend this leg in here and keep my weight away from him, so I'm far away. Turn my waist, take him down. From here, grab behind his knee, stand with your legs and waist, turn him over. You can drop your knee here also and lean. Okay? Or step all the way over and lean here. Now off a kick. Glenn kicks me, I move off the attack line, I can block under, right, over here. Or, if he kicks me and I just jump out of the way and he catch his foot here. Maybe I hit him, stick his foot out, turn my hips, grab, move up, roll him over, hold. This can reach here, hold with this hand, this can hit him in the groin. Okay? This technique is called kicking inside the knee, and you're going to kick inside the opponent's knee down at a 45-degree angle. Again, if you pull his hip or his knee at 45 degrees out and down, it locks immediately into his hip and it takes him down. Pushing from the front's very strong. If you kick something from the outside, it'll buckle. Can damage the knee. From behind, it might make it buckle. But the easiest way is to pull his knee out and down 45 degrees this way. That immediately pulls his hip out and he goes down. Now we're going to do it with our foot. So Glenn has his left foot in front. He's in this kind of a stance. I'm in front of him here. I'm going to bring this foot up like a side kick and side kick down 45 degrees this way. That way. And take him down. Okay? Now I can do this with either foot. This way I'm just doing it with my right to his left. You can also do it from this angle if you want to. Okay? Off a punch, for example, if Glenn throws this punch, maybe I slip inside and I hit him. And I maybe get a hold and you have to be very close. You can't be reaching like this. There's not enough push to knock him down. So stay close to him, right? Bring your body up and then kick and push. He goes down. So once again off a punch, maybe I slip and cover him on the inside. I hit him or I punch him. I come very close and I side kick and push this leg down. Okay, one more time. Okay. This technique is called the two struggling tigers. The two tigers are my hand pulling him one way and my foot pushing him the other way. So in this technique, you're going to be behind the opponent. You're going to have a hold of either his shoulder or maybe his hair or around his throat. It doesn't matter. You get a hold, come up behind him fairly close. You can't be too far away and reach. So fairly close to him. Push down 45 degrees forward behind his knee to make him kneel and pull this way with your hand. And now be very careful when you go down. Don't stomp on the back of the opponent's knee. For real, that's what you're going to do when you practice. Make sure you take the weight off. Okay, you have him here. From here, you can stomp on his ankles. They're in a bad position here, that angle. You can grab around his head or his throat, hit him in the throat here, get your body close. Okay, take him down. You can just turn the knee with the back, boom, this way, if you want. Or you can turn his head and you can come around and choke him from underneath this way. So it's a good setup for all of those. So, if he throws a punch, he throws me a punch, I slip. This is sealing the elbow. I go the same way the punch goes and move it over my shoulder. I immediately can bring his hand up and hit. Boom, from here, chop him in the neck or hit him in the head, wherever I want. I get a hold somewhere, right? His hair, his neck, his clothing. I come up, push and stand him upright. I can stomp on his ankle. I can hit him in the throat, right? I can just turn and knee him in the back, or I can choke him. Okay? Or just push him down. Okay. This technique is called the ancient tree's winding roots. So your leg is like the root of a tree, and it's going to wrap around your opponent. Okay? And the way it works is this. You have him tilted back a little bit. You're going to bring your knee up and out, and then sit with your hip right on his hip and drop into a horse stance. And that takes him straight down to the ground. So once again, he has his right foot forward. I have him tilted out to the side. I bring my knee up, and I just sit on the hip, and I land in a horse stance here. So the china is on the hip. When you do this, the most important thing to remember is to be very close. Don't try it from out here, then drop and just kind of get halfway here. He's going to be very solid. You have to get your hip all the way up on top of his hip, not on top of his thigh. So you have to have your outside foot very close to his front foot. Come up from here and sit down. Okay. Now for punch, I do it off of a roundhouse punch. I move in early, and I use my body weight to block and hit him in the chin to lean him back. From here I can hold on. If I want to, from here I can knee him in the kidney. Then turn my hip and sit down. Okay? So, if he throws a roundhouse punch, don't wait here and block. Now he's going to be very solid. He's going to throw the other punch, you're going to be in here fighting. As he cocks the punch, I move in close. Here he has no powers. His power can't come out because his arm's too far back. Hit him in the chin. Hold on to him, keep your weight forward. Knee. Sit. Okay. This technique is called the little ghost pushes the millstone. The millstone they're referring to is the opponent's leg. In this technique, again, we're going to push his knee out and downward at 45 degrees. And this time we're going to use our elbow. So we're actually going to strike with an elbow inside of the front of his thigh here, which is very painful, and hit it out 45 degrees. As he starts to buckle, we pull his foot so he falls. Okay, stand back up. It's a good idea to hold here, then pull, so the opponent just doesn't step away. So I drop my weight in here and I elbow, and as I do it, as he goes, I pull his foot. He goes down there. You can quickly hit him in the groin. Again, be careful of his feet, so stand back up or follow up quickly. Off a punch, you need to be very close. So a good time to apply this is say I'm very close to Glenn. I have my right foot forward, and he jabs at my face. I slip and hit underneath, or I might hit him in the groin, but I'm hitting under here. I immediately drop down and do the technique. Elbow and pull. Okay? If you're a little bit to his outside line, a bit over here and Glenn hits me, say I duck and hit, I can drop back this way on my knee. Okay? So I've gone from here, I can drop back this way on my knee here, and get a better angle. And fall up right away. Careful of his legs, right? He might bring his leg up. If I want to come right back up. This technique is called Gao that chops the snake. This time I'm going to use my arm to chop in, and the snake is his leg. So if I'm on the outside of his leg, I can push it, I can roll it till it buckles inward that way. It also makes his stance very weak. So I'm going to roll my hand down and in so it buckles. Then I'm going to hang onto his ankle and use my shoulder to push his hip. Take him down. One more time. So if I'm on the outside of his body, I use my arm to hit down and roll in. It buckles his leg that way. So down and roll in, then my shoulder pushes his hip and it takes him down. Again, if I'm close to him, say we're standing here and he throws a fast punch, I can duck and just slip the punch under, hit him in the groin. Okay, it's a good setup. Immediately take my roll, bump, and he goes down. So he throws a punch, duck your head out and forward. Don't lean back this way. And I'll step and hit you again. So I duck here and hit him in the groin with my palm, roll, bump, and he goes down. This technique is called the black dog pierces between the legs. It's basically a double leg tackle. Your opponent has one foot in front. You're going to step in deep between his legs with right to right. But instead of bending over here and trying to grab, he's very solid. He's going to grab me now. We're going to be wrestling down here. What I want to do is, as I step in, I want to use my shoulder to push his hips back and down at 45 degrees. When someone's hips move back and down here, it makes them sit. All right? So it's analogous to, or this kind of a takedown from the front, this way. Makes him sit. So what I'm going to do is, when I take him down, he has his right foot forward, I'm going to step in deep, use my shoulder here, start pushing him as I squat, and then just kind of pull his legs together. I don't even have to grab him if I don't want to. Okay, one more time. So I step in deep between his legs, hit with my shoulder, keep my weight going down, and pull his leg at the end. Now I'm going to jump over. The traditional follow-up is I jump over and I kind of land on the opponent, or I land on him this way with all my weight. My hands go to his throat. I can use one or both. and this is a different kind of choke. I'm going to put my thumb right under his his larynx here, in his windpipe, and my four fingers grab around the back of his neck and squeeze his carotid artery, and I squeeze and push in towards his ears, that way. Okay, it'll choke. Now, obviously, it's better to get both hands on, but if I have one hand on, I can still use this one to hit him or keep my balance or cover. Off a punch, if I'm close and he hits me, I can just slip. See, I'm right here. Now, if you do this immediately, he won't have a chance to grab you if you lean in. Take him down, jump over and land on him. You can either sit with your body weight or land on your knees. Go directly into the choke and squeeze. Okay? So he punches me. I slip and come straight in all in one motion. Hold his legs, jump over, land on him, boom. Start choking. Use your body weight. Squeeze his behind his carotid arteries here. Push up from the center of his throat up towards his ears. That way. Okay? Not only cuts off his air here, it cuts off the blood on the sides. Okay, one more time. I jump over, land, drop my weight, choke. Okay. This technique is called 1,000 caddies falls to the ground. So it implies a lot of weight falling straight down. And it's a stomp on the foot. So we're going to stomp straight down on the opponent's foot. We're going to aim at the juncture of where the toes join to the top, to the foot itself, right here. All right? So we're going to stomp straight down. Make sure you're very close to the opponent. If your foot's back here, you don't want to reach this way. There's no weight. I want to be very close here, so my whole body weight is right over my foot. Stomp on his foot. After I stomp, I put my weight on it here. Okay? I stomp, put my weight on it, and I push him down. Now, when you practice, let the pressure off. For real, I'm going to hold his foot down as he falls, and it's going to stretch out all across the top of his foot here and damage his ankle. So again, I'm going to stomp straight down, boom, close, put my weight on my foot, push him down, let it up when you practice. For real, you'll keep your weight there as you push him, so it stretches out his ankle. Now, a possible entry might be, for example, if Glenn throws a roundhouse punch, this again, I enter early, block and knock him back, hang on to him, stomp, push. Okay? Always let the pressure off when you practice. So one more time. He cocks a punch. I'm going to hit him. Hang on. Stomp. Push. Okay. One more. This technique is called twisting the foot to spin the body. It's a kick defense. So you have a hold of the opponent's foot from the outside, underneath here, and you're going to hold it tight to your body. Now, the ankle doesn't rotate. It doesn't have. When it rotates, it immediately starts to rotate the leg bones. It goes right into his hip. So from here, I have one arm under. I'm holding it. I grab a hold of it around the outside of his foot. All I need to do is twist my body and drop my hips a little bit. The opponent will drop right on the ground. Okay. So one more time. You're going to catch his foot underneath, scoop it up. Here, hold it tight to you here. Grab his foot, or you don't even have to. If you hold here, it'll work just as well. Grab here. Don't turn your body. Hold your hands in front of you and twist. Twist your hips. So he'll go there right here. It's a very hard fall. And from here, you can follow up on him. Okay? Again, be careful of his other leg. All right? Now, off a kick, I'm going to move out of the way and cover down, and then hook it up. From here, don't pull him into you. Move up into him, and turn your hips. Take him down. All right? One more time off the other side. So he's kicking me, I move out of the way and scoop. If I happen to catch it here, I hold it tight, grab here, turn my hip, take him down. Okay.